Ian, are you able to record the
I
session?
think so. Do you want me to record it from my side?
Yes, please. It gets a bit like noisy and complicated.
I'm going to record it onto my computer rather than the cloud. Would that be okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Can I just check you can still see my shared screen?
No, we can only see you, James. Yeah, now we can.
Hello, everybody. We are just about to get started. Got a few more people in the waiting room. We'll just let them in. Thank you very much. Apologies. One second. Couple of technical issues there. It's just running through. Sorry about that. 1 second, everybody. I'll just get that video back up and running for us. A bit tricksy today. Okay, there. Okay, hello everybody. So let's try that again, shall we? Alan Wasalan, and welcome to the 2021 SP Annual Technical Conference. My name is James Whitaker. I am the Senior Young Member Programs Manager for SPE, and I would like to thank you for attending our Young Members reception. Today will be an opportunity to hear some really vital updates for young professionals, but it's also a key way for you to network and connect with other SP members all over the world. So please do make sure to stay engaged and use the chat boxes and everything else. In our agenda today, we'll be hearing from a very special speaker, Eva Brish, Sustainable Energy Division for the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. So we're very, very grateful to have her with us today. I know her time is incredibly valuable. She'll be talking to us on communicating for influence and impact, lessons learned from pathways to sustainable energy and carbon neutrality projects. Following a Q&A with Eva, we will also be hearing from our 2021 WIMEC chair, Rodrigo, who will give us all the updates on activities in SPE that we can take advantage of, and also what other projects are coming up in the future as well. Finally, we will be sharing your thoughts. We want to hear more from you on preparing how you're going to be preparing for the energy transition. So we're going to be breaking out into smaller groups later on before sharing your feedback with the wider group. Don't worry, you don't have to have your camera on if you're not quite prepared for that, but we really want to keep you engaged. So please do stick around for that. Again, we want this to be as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, please do make sure to submit them in the comments boxes. We will keep an eye on all of those, and we'll try and get through as many questions as you can. Excellent, we've got some more people joining us. Fantastic. So before I get started, I did want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors for today. Dragonall are the host sponsors for ATCE overall, so without them, this whole event would really not be possible. So a huge thank you to them. And also, I would like to say a big thank you to His Highness Sheikh Hamad bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Crown Prince of Dubai. His patronage has made this event possible, so thank you so much for that as well. So let's get started. As I say, Eva is an incredibly busy person, so I'll get straight to her. Eva is an energy analyst who's been dedicatedly pursuing her career in energy industry internationally. She has worked for the UN International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna, PetroChina in Beijing, Energy Consultancy Westwood, Global Energy Group, the WGEG in London, and also in 2018, Eva joined the Croatian Ministry for Foreign Affairs, where she worked as Energy Trade and Sustainable Development Specialist at the Permanent Mission of Croatia to the United Nations and the World Trade Organization in Geneva. After a diplomatic mandate, Eva joined the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe in Geneva to work on sustainable energy portfolios. At the UNECE, Eva is working closely with the member states and policymakers to improve access to affordable and clean energy for all and help reduce greenhouse gas emissions and the carbon footprint for energy sectors in the region. She is, from that, you can tell she's going to be an incredible speaker. We don't have a huge amount of time with her today, but this time is going to be really, really good. So thank you so much. Eva, if you would like to unmute and share your screen, open your video. I'm happy to share your slides for you if you're ready.
Thank you, James, for introduction, and Nihal for invitation. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the participants. It's quite exciting crowd, and I hope that my short presentation will be interesting. When I was invited to give presentation or talk to this community, I thought what would be really useful now to share, and then I thought. If I reflect on what we have been doing here at the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, James, I'm happy to share because I made some changes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
I'll stop sharing. Okay.
No problem. So I will share it while I'm talking. Let me just see what's going on. So stop sharing. Let me. I believe that now in a second you will all be able to see my screen. Is it correct? Cool. So yes, I was reflecting a little bit what would be really useful, what would be a little different. Since I understood that it's a young and enthusiastic group of young professionals who really want to lead and make an impact in the world, I thought that actually it would be maybe useful that I share some findings from my personal experience here at the United Nations. As James said and nicely introduced me, thank you again for that. We have been working on promoting the agenda on sustainable development, so-called Agenda 2030. You might be all familiar with that, and promoting the Paris Agreement targets. So I would like to share with you some findings from the projects that we implemented before, where we had some challenges in pushing some tricky messages. And given the background that this community is coming from, I thought that those messages would be interesting and will resonate with you. And then I would also like to share some findings from the project on carbon neutrality. One of your colleagues, Nihal, she has been part of our team now. And I would like to also share some findings from there, and maybe Nihal can also jump in and help me. Let's make it really interactive. So if there are like some immediate questions, I really don't mind if you interrupt me. So please, James, help me to monitor the chat, or if somebody's using the raise hand tool, I'm happy to stop, pause, and respond immediately. So maybe some of you are not really familiar with the UNECE, and I thought that maybe I just give you like a little background, who we are and what we fight for. We cover, as you can see, like a very broad region that includes North America, Europe, and Central Asia. As you can imagine, countries coming from different resources that they are having access to, but also different levels of economic development. And what we really actually promote, our mission is to promote this pan-European economic integration. We promote the multilateral platform, and we facilitate greater economic integration and cooperation across the continent or continents, as you can see. And we've helped countries to really engage in dialogue. We support them with implementation of the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development and Paris Agreement. 56 member states across the mainly like Northern Hemisphere. I'm responsible for implementation of project on carbon neutrality, attaining carbon neutrality across power and energy intensive industries by 2050. I work for the Sustainable Energy Division, and in the next couple of minutes, I would like to share some findings from that work. So when I was thinking about this presentation, I was asking myself two questions. can we really communicate effectively in a system such as UN? And actually, the same question I asked myself this morning when I was sitting in the Committee on Sustainable Energy, because I see that we are repeating messages when we go from year to year to these big committee sessions, and they're like little impact, or they're not even baby steps. Sometimes we have a feeling. So how can we communicate more effectively? How can we really communicate for an influence and impact? You all might know that maybe this Friday there is a big high-level meeting, high-level dialogue on energy organized by the United Nations as part of the General Assembly. It's a preparatory meeting for the COP26 that will take place later in November. And while we are preparing for those big meetings and while we're building the expectations that really some concrete actions will be agreed on, we really try to, at the Secretariat of the UN, help countries to really influence them, to navigate them in the right direction so that we together can make an impact and really get into hopefully next already year with some more bold and more concrete actions and policies. So I have to admit that when I reflect a little bit on what we have been working on over the past 3-4 years here at the UNECE, we learned we had some successes, but we also had some failures. And actually, the communication, or that communication with influence and impact, is some of the, I would say, biggest failures when you try to coordinate multinational or multi-stakeholder dialogue on policies. So I'd like to share with you some challenges that I faced or we faced, some lessons learned, present the approach that we are taking now, see that whether it resonates with you, and some feedback would be interesting, and see like if share with you whether we are seeing that this approach is successful. So this is the first message. This data is coming from our flagship project called Pathways to Sustainable Energy. This project we were implementing from 2016 until 2019. And one of the main takeaways from this project, as you can see on the chart, we are comparing the reference scenario, the NDC scenario, and Paris Paris 2 degrees or Paris Agreement scenario. And as you can see on the chart, the main takeaway is that fossils are here to stay. This was obviously a very unpopular message to communicate under the blue UN flag, but the data show that. And even under the P2C scenario, which has the most ambitious climate mitigation policies in place, we still see a big chunk of natural gas, oil, and also coal across our UNECE region. So the question was like, how we then really help countries to transform our energy system in a more effective way, given that fossil fuels will remain to some extent part of the energy mix in a foreseeable future. There was another unpopular message that also didn't really resonate with our stakeholders internally, but also externally, is that attaining sustainable energy is actually mission impossible. We did this, you might have heard of the trilemma when we look at attaining sustainable development, and then you have to satisfy energy security, obviously, as a pillar, minimize the environmental impact, and satisfy the quality of life or the equity. And having these three in balance is extremely challenging. We have been running many sub-regional workshops and also on the highest political level dialogues. And we learned that actually it's impossible to satisfy all three at the same time. And if you really want to target to satisfying energy, then the prices of electricity, for instance, going to really go to the skyrocketing heights, and there will be pressure on the end users. Energy security always needs to be satisfied as the first, so the countries never wanted to compensate on having access to energy and satisfying their energy security. So there are various interpretations of sustainable energy. We still, after 5 years of focus on this topic, we still haven't defined what really sustainable energy means for countries. It's an ongoing process and dialogue, but I think that this chart really shows why. And I trust that it also resonates with you. You're also coming from the energy sector, and you understand well why actually the results from the dialogue and from the analysis show that attaining sustainable energy might be actually mission impossible. So just to wrap up, like here for this part of presentation, we were facing then really both internal communication barriers and external communication barriers in pushing for these recommendations to be implemented and by our member states. Internal communication barriers were on the highest UN level, where our SG was saying is having like a very firm position that we need to leave fossils in the ground. But the analysis from the project has shown that it's impossible to leave it in the ground to satisfy the economic growth and really support these economies to develop. And then we also had external communication barriers with different countries. We learned, and I will highlight it again in a minute, countries obviously like make their own decisions based on the access to the resources that they have and the level of their economic development. Unfortunately, there will be winners and losers. So it really is about cooperation, regional or sub-regional integration to see how together we can really find the most efficient and effective way to decarbonize energy system and really support and accelerate this energy transition. So we thought then that we spin the narrative a little bit and think about an immediate action, something that would be palatable and would resonate with everybody. So we looked at what is this big gap that we are facing. We know what's our destination. We want to get to the net zero. We want to attain Paris Agreement target. But what it actually really means, because we learned that the policymaker they don't understand what it actually means getting to the P2C, what it actually means satisfying this scenario. So we did additional analysis, and we actually wanted to learn what is actually our carbon budget. And we learned that if we want to get to our destination, so if you really want to satisfy this green curve P2C, we need to cut or capture at least 90 gigatons of CO2 emissions by 2050 only in the UNECE region. And that was another not very popular message, but at least it was something more tangible. And there was like a big now aha effect from the stakeholders. Oh, wow, this is really the gap. And we have to like work on attaining carbon neutrality. And all technologies will have a role will play a role there. And again, countries will pick their pathways based on their level of economic development and access to resources and access to technology to get to the destination. So this was something very interesting that in a way spin the narrative from attaining sustainable energy towards attaining carbon neutrality as some, I would say, first step towards attaining sustainable energy. So attaining carbon neutrality is a first step on this long journey towards attaining sustainable energy. And again, a caveat, sustainable energy we are still defining. So in the current project on carbon neutrality that we have been focusing on and that Nihal is supporting as well, we are focusing here on immediate minimization of greenhouse gas emissions from energy system. I will tell a little bit more why we focus on power and energy intensive industries, but we actually do take a holistic energy system approach. We focus on improvement of systemic energy efficiencies. We analyze how different technologies can help us to get to our destination. We work on raising awareness for those technologies to be implemented and look how we can attract investments in such technologies. And also an important message that was highlighted from the Pathways to Sustainable Energy project was that addressing methane is really of an utmost importance immediately to minimize really the negative impact of increasing also use of gas on climate change. Then, while we're focusing on taking immediate action, we're also preparing the ground for midterm and long-term action. And these policies, I will not go now step by step through them, but these are already now being conceptualized and drafted to support long-term transition and eventual attainment of sustainable energy. So, as I said, we are taking the holistic system approach. We look at the supply side, demand side, and any other residual emissions, how these can be sequestrated by the natural carbon sinks. You might think why transport sector and building sector are shaded in gray while industry is in green. Due to the limited resources support, we had to pick priorities. In the industry sector contributes with about 25% of emissions. 25% of the total emissions fall into come from the industry sector. So this is like one of the reasons why we focus, and also the technologies that I will talk in a minute about, we see that might have a biggest impact on industry sectors. So we had to unfortunately pick one sector for this stage of the project, and we hope that then when hopefully some additional financing comes in the future, we'll be able to look more closely in the transport and building sector. Nevertheless, now in implementation of our carbon neutrality project, we do take a whole system approach. We consider all sectors because it just a system approach really is needed. We cannot isolate one sector to really understand how the region can get to carbon neutrality, but the deeper analysis is focused on the power and industry sector. So these are the products. Some are like still ongoing, some have been produced. I invite you all, and happy to share later in the chat the link to our project. We see the products from this project being really a toolkit for policymakers to make informed decisions. So far, we have drafted and published the CCUS interesting report, also nuclear power. Hydrogen is at final stage, and we're also working on the brief on decarbonization of energy intensive industries. And again, thanks to Nihal, this document will also soon be ready for publishment. These products, as I said, we call them a toolkit, so they help us to raise awareness, to inform our policymakers, how these technologies can help them to get to the destination. So the language is less technical; it's more focused on raising awareness, educating a minister who is running to another meeting in a simple way, so that he gets the aha effect, why CCS is important to balance this 56% of the fossil fuels that we will continue to have in the energy mix in the foreseeable future, or how can hydrogen help, or how can nuclear power be used for baseload to support renewable energy and variable renewable energy penetration. So these are the tools that we prepared for our stakeholders, and these tools then obviously also support our brief on energy intensive industries, because as I mentioned, for energy industries that we are targeting, which is cement, steel, and chemical industry. These solutions will play a very important role in decarbonizing them or creating carbon neutral energy intensive industries. So this is one example when I said like short snapshot, what we mean for instance by CCUS. Simple infographics that in a simple way help us to raise awareness, to get this like push to the policymakers to accept and draft the policies and regulatory framework to help CCS to be further adopted, and then attract financing to CCUS projects, for instance. So given your community, I thought that maybe I also draw your attention to an interesting event that we are preparing at the margins of the UN High-Level Dialogue on Energy, which will take place this Friday. You heard from where we started a year ago when we were communicating very unpopular messages that fossil fuels will remain in the mix and that we need to tackle them. It was impossible to have the 6 executive secretaries, heads of the regional commissions, discussing CCUS technologies, for instance. But now there is a better understanding how we really need to think about carbon removal technologies, those which are engineered, such as CCUS, but also those that are natural based. And need to get like a better understanding how these can help us to attain our targets, how they can, what policies are needed, what are the barriers that exist for those technologies to be implemented across regions. And here, when I say that there are 5 regional commissions, we are UNECE, Economic Commission for Europe, but we have a sister commissions for Latin America, for Asia Pacific, Africa, and Western Asia. So all 5, when come together, we cover the whole world. This event is taking place this Friday, and yes, I kindly invite you to check the High-Level Dialogue on Energy website. And if it's going to be an interesting dialogue, so might be yes, nice Friday afternoon session for you all. So maybe just to wrap up from this process, when we think about how to help countries to really accelerate energy transition, how to communicate really with influence and impact, I learned at least that there is really a need for evidence-based, trusted messages. When we came to this message that 90 gigatons of CO2 emissions need to be like sucked out of the air, then we finally got like, oh, wake up call from the countries. So I think this is something that really helped. It's important to cultivate, obviously, like trustworthy dialogue. These processes take ages. I have been part of it now for over 3 years. And I see how slowly they move, but at least now I see that there is like a lot of appetite coming from different stakeholders, and it's really important to focus on the target audience and work continuously and strategically to slowly change their behavior. It's important, obviously, like to build strategic partnerships. It's important to understand like who are your allies, how you can then persuade people to make coalitions so that they move in the direction you want them to move. And obviously, like partnerships, I find them are really key in making such tectonic, in a way, changes, and especially also like make such bold decisions and actions. So I really would like to highlight that thinking about partnerships, building partnerships is the key. And finally, what we learned that it takes time, but it's actually how we turn some idea that we see of value like into their ideas, the country's ideas, and how then they really make it part of their national plans, of their national strategies. It takes a lot of time, but then there is finally ownership developed. They recognize the value they get, and then we have full commitment. So all these ingredients that you see here are extremely important. They take time, and a lot of it's sometimes a bumpy road, but I think are in a way a little manual on how to communicate for influence in impact in such an environment of the multilateral discussions, and it's such now at a time when we're going through the energy transition. So I believe, yes, that was all. I hope I was not too long.
It's perfect. That was incredible. Like, that's a really, really great presentation. Thank you so much, Eva.
Thank you.
I mean, firstly, I mean, it was just exciting to watch because, I mean, my role, I spend most of my day watching presentations from oil and gas professionals, and the vast majority at the moment are talking about sustainability. And I know people such as those on the call are very much kind of focused on this topic, but to hear like the same information coming from you and the research that you guys been doing, that's really exciting as well. I do worry that there's a bit of an echo chamber sometimes when I'm listening to petroleum engineers talking about petroleum engineering issues, and I'm sure many of the people on this call have had similar issues where they find it difficult to even bring these topics up because there's a element of distrust. I don't know, maybe yes, particularly in the European region. If I hear our SP president show the same slides or the same data as you've shown, and you know, like coming from him, that means one thing. Coming from the UN, it means quite a different thing. So, do you have any advice for people within the industry to share this shared message with everybody?
Well, I think it is really about partnerships, right? So at the UNECE, but in the UN generally now we promote private partnerships. I think that this transition will not be one directional only from the public sector. It has to really bring everybody on board. So I think then also what I said, like, having this trustworthy information and also an open, honest, inclusive dialogue is really the key. So I noticed before we would have people like energy efficiency people would only talk to energy efficiency people, renewables people will only talk to renewables people. But then we started like breaking those silos about a year ago, and beautiful initiatives really emerged. Now we are working on initiatives such as this one on carbon neutrality project, which brings people like from different backgrounds, from the gas sector and from renewable energy sector and from energy efficiency sector and resource management sector. And I think it is the key that you don't, obviously you wear one hat when you are talking to your specific targeted audience, but to get credibility, it is really about partnerships and doing things together. And I think that would be my maybe like my advice, like how you find allies who are not necessarily only from your sector, who are maybe like on the opposite side of your table, but then you work together on a common goal. And I think this is the beauty. I think this is the beauty of the UN. That's why I joined, because you really try to bring everybody around the table. It can be sometimes so frustrating because finding consensus often will dilute some messages. But at least when we are doing analytical work, we take this very technology neutral approach, and we really see and look at what data shows us and what we learn from countries when we go there and when we look like how things are done. So yes, partnerships, inclusive dialogue, and staying optimistic, listen actively, and yes, working together. I think
that's fantastic. I mean, a lot of that, it's incredible, and I know many people share that kind of desire for communication with everybody. Do you ever find that the politics gets in the way a little bit? Because see, I mean, I just think about,
Yes.
it becomes, looking at the data, looking at the science, it gives you a message. As you say, it becomes an unpopular message, and you're often relying on people who are relying on a popular vote to implement those changes and things like that. Is that a particular struggle for you?
Yeah, it's true. It can get political, and of course, like the higher you get, it gets more political. For instance, we at the UNECE, I'm happy to share, we have the expert meetings where we look more at the technical details, where we develop the meat, and then these policy recommendations go to the committee, which is a intergovernmental body, and here those messages get diluted, and it can be super frustrating. But I think there, as I said, it's really about being persistent, about repeating, influencing. In a year, come with more solid messages, which are really evidence-based, and I highlight this evidence-based. I think that now we all understand that the world is on fire, and that we actually need to be bold, and we need to really work all together to make it possible, to meet the Paris Agreement targets, or actually to become even more ambitious. And I hope that we will hear that in Glasgow this year, that we need to be way more ambitious if we want to continue living on this. We as a humankind, if we want to live, continue to live on this planet. So. Yes, answering your question again, it can be frustrating, but I think this is part of the process. One should not become, kind of to give up in the process. So, and again, I think the more inclusive the process is, it can be it can get more frustrating. But actually, you then know that you really have all the stakeholders on board, and you slowly then move them in the direction you want to go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, I guess it's like that quote about fashion comes and goes, and style is forever, and then politics comes and goes, and the science stays forever. So yes, we'll keep going. I'm going to open this up to Matt Waller. He has been a regular attendee, so thank you very much for joining our sessions and joining this one as well. Please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hello all. First of all, thank you for this very interesting overview. And it's good to see also the UN sees that hydrocarbons will still play a major role in the future. And my question is, because you talked about nuclear energy, and currently in the European Union, especially in the European Parliament, there's a very intense discussion if nuclear energy should be counted as green energy. And I just wanted to maybe hear your point, or the view of your organization on this.
Please, thank you for this question. And yes, please check our nuclear power brief. We consider it low carbon energy. That's how we define it, and we believe that this technology needs to be also taken in consideration when we're talking about attaining Paris Agreement targets. Without nuclear, it would not be possible. The data shows that it would not be possible to meet the targets that we are committed to. So we do not consider it green, but we consider it low carbon, and as an important ingredient to get us to the destination.
Okay, yeah, so you will never say it belongs kind of renewables, but it is an alternative for like conventional coal and gas power plants.
Well, conventional coal and gas, we promote that this, if stays in the mix, needs to be retrofitted with the CCUS technologies. So this is something that we have been working on with countries, and the whole awareness exercise on CCUS technologies is actually coming from there, understanding that there is quite a bit of natural gas, and additional penetration of natural gas will happen. Coal phase out is happening, yes, in the Western Europe, but actually if we look at our membership, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, it's not really. So or Southeastern Europe, as well. If you look at Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, lignite, which is very dirty, it's the main part of their energy mix. So we try to help countries to see how that energy infrastructure can be retrofitted with HELE, so high efficiency, low emission technologies, or CCUS, so that there is no stranded assets, right? That's also approach on what we take on fossil fuels.
Yeah, all right. Very interesting. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matt. Looks like we have another question. Esan, are you happy to come on camera? I know you were in the previous session.
Of course.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for your great presentation. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to ask you about the effect of technology cost in your analysis. I see that how do you see the future of fossil fuel in energy, let's say, energy environment? And I see that your group actually expect that fossil fuel will take its role in the future of energy marketing. Is it the effect of technology availability and cost, or do you believe something else will keep fossil fuel as one of the main players in energy market?
Mm-hmm. No, thank you so much, Eshan, for this question. Also, Nihal can jump in here because she has been doing some research on that as well. The main driver actually are the sectors that are not possible to decarbonize, so hard to abate sectors such as energy intensive industries, for instance, or long haul transport. I'm now in Geneva, for instance. Let me start with transport and then I'll go back to industry. And the winters can be, actually, the winter are harsh here. We get snow, and especially if you're like up in the hills, it's impossible to drive Teslas there, right? So you need to have your diesel or gasoline power car. Otherwise, because your battery would freeze, and the infrastructure does not exist to support your Tesla or any like EV to get from work to home. So I think that it's for some parts of the transport sector, we need to see like what are the solutions, whether maybe it will be hydrogen. We see that experts are now more and more talking about it in our forum. And in other big industry, or actually sector that cannot be easily decarbonized, are the energy intensive industries, production of steel, cement, chemicals. It's just not possible with renewable energy. We also as a feedstock, you need carbon as a feedstock in chemical processes. So these are the messages that or the takeaways that are coming from our analysis, and what we see when we do our analysis. What are the low-hanging fruits? Decarbonizing energy and intensive industries with variable renewable energy, definitely not possible given the storage solutions that we have now in place. So we need to see how we can decarbonize them with possibly CCS, better efficiency, like energy efficiency or industrial energy efficiency definitely is a low-hanging fruit, and we should see how we can improve energy efficiency in the processes, but also when we use energy for energy-intensive, energy-related emissions, how these can be minimized in energy-intensive industries. And then I said like CCS will play a role, nuclear power can play a role, nuclear heat can play a role, and hydrogen. Hydrogen is again and again coming as an interesting solution that can help us decarbonize energy intensive industries, steel production, for instance.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, Eva, I mean, I know we've taken up more of your time than we were probably anticipating, so I wanted to really say thank you. It's always incredible having these discussions with people actually working on it, rather than lots of people have these discussions that aren't really involved in it, but everybody in this room is either working towards these solutions or, you know, going to be in the near future. So it's very exciting to have these conversations. Are there any final words from you on any advice on kind of how our students and our young professionals on the call could maybe direct their careers, or anything that you would like to see us do in order to help this?
Well, I think that energy sector as such is going like through an transformation, and I think it's the most exciting industry to work for. I remember back then, when I was graduating, my mom was asking me like, Eva, why? Actually, I started my career in oil and gas, and my mom was asking like, why oil and gas? Why not pharmaceutics or beauty products? But I think that energy sector, the fact that it really mobilizes the knowledge and and it has always like, and if you look at the oil and gas industry and the complexity of it, it's interesting, and I think it's really transferable now also to the energy transition, to look into solutions that are environmentally more friendly, that are more sustainable. So I really have great hope in energy sector. I believe energy is a golden thread. It's just like for our lives, it's the electricity does not come from the wall, as some people might think. It's actually generated somewhere, right? And they're the sources. It's a complex system. So my advice would be really like to stay curious and ambitious, and just like push this transition going forward. It's actually something that motivates me every day. I'm excited to be part of it. And when you think about this meeting on high-level dialogue on energy is happening this Friday, and what country is going to discuss, and then what's going to happen in the first 2 weeks in November in Glasgow, and really people from all sectors will be there, private, public. I would advise you like to keep your eyes and ears open, look for some signals, and I really see it as an interesting industry now for definitely our careers. I believe that we're not too far in generations from each other. So yes, I find it exciting, and I really believe that sustainable solutions are in all those technologies that are now part of the energy mix. So I don't like to exclude them and make them green or non-green. I prefer to talk about the clean energy technologies. And I think that for the better world, that's really the solution.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Eva. I'm sure you're younger than me anyway. You certainly look it. Right. Thank you very much, everybody. We will now be moving on to our next speaker, Rodrigo, the 2021 chair of the Young Member Engagement Committee. Hey, Rodrigo, how are you doing?
Hi, James. How are you? Good morning, everyone. Or actually, good evening, good afternoon for you guys, some of you.
Thanks, Rodrigo. Yeah, we have people from all over the world here, so it's fantastic to see you all. Rodrigo will be talking to us today about different activities that you can participate in as SP members, and more about what our committee, the Young Member Engagement Committee, is doing. So, Rodrigo, if you have your slides, you're very welcome to kick off.
Sure. Thank you, James. Let me know, James, when you guys can see the screen.
Yep, we've got it. Thanks.
Perfect. Let me just adjust my other screen here. Okay, perfect. So thank you, James. Thank you, guys. Thank you, of course, James and Joens and Nika for the invitation. It's as you guys are aware, Niha is taking over from WIMEC along the other volunteers. So WIMEC is in very good hands. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's hard to be a follow-up from Eva's presentation, taken from UN sustainability point of view. And now I feel very humble. I should have added some kind of economic information to this presentation, but I hope it's not old reused slides for you guys. It's a quick recap on what we've been doing on WIMEC, what we did during the last years, and of course I'll leave and let Niha complement and complete on what she's working on. I know she's got a lot of major plans and ideas for the upcoming year, so this is more of a recap. Let me just pass on here. So as you guys are aware, and we have Mohammed, Exlan, and some other fellow WIMEC members here on the call, which is great to see. So as you guys are aware, WIMEC is the Young Member Engagement Committee. It's the committee, although despite its name, it's focused not only on YPs, but it's also, of course, focused on students, and it's open for YP members and general members for that matter. We tend to believe that only YP SP members can join, but in reality, any SP member could apply and perhaps should apply if it's of interest. And the idea is to make it as diverse in terms of nationality as well as in gender and points of view as possible. So this is the last roster that we had from WIMEC, and of course there's a new one incoming now with Niha, and some volunteers have remained. Me myself, I'm in my last year as YP, so I'm of course always available and will remain to help Niha whatever she needs. But we encourage always new blood and new people coming and joining. So it's and of course the WIMEC is divided into this subcommittees, which we'll mention just in a little bit. So where does WIMEC fall within the big SP family, as you guys might be aware? So within the SP board of directors, then we go into the branch of the member, let's say, committees and programs. We then have a board liaison, and then we have the Young Member Engagement Committee, which used to be traditionally broken down in three major subcommittees, which was the Student Integration Subcommittee, Innovation Subcommittee, and Communication Subcommittee, each of which they have their leads, let's say, or subcommittee chairs. And of course, our Savers staff liaisons, which are, of course, the very well-known James and Yuen here joining us in the call as staff liaisons here. So this is how it pretty much used to be. And along with Niha and our WIMEC fellows, we've been working during the last year to make this into the following structure, which we think is a little bit more optimized, and of course, still subject to change by Niha and the new team. So we wanted to include a new fourth subcommittee, which is the geographical representatives, in which we have added at least one or two representatives from each region, either board appointed or by WIMEC selection internal process. And the idea is to have guaranteed that we have all the regions properly represented. So as you guys might be aware, there are some regions such as the Latin American Caribbean region, which Cassandra is the regional focal point, but not all regions have a focal point. So the idea is to have this kind of aspect. We've also worked a lot, as you guys might be aware, we did 2 Petroballs, virtual, both of them. So that was a huge task for which we had this internal work group. And we've also been focusing a lot on the social media aspects, and not as much perhaps as I would have liked on ALP and energy. For me, that's mea culpa. But I know that Niha will be working on that as well, and many other programs. And of course, we have strong interaction with the other SP analog committees, our cousins, which are the Business Management and Leadership Committee, Gaia, the Way Ahead, along with JPT, the membership staff and committees, and of course the DNI, Michaja, and the SP Media Contact SP staff. So things we've been working on, at least until our last town hall, which wasn't that long ago. So we worked pretty hard on the Petroball. We did 2 Petroballs with a good learning curve. It was a great event. We did virtually. We wanted to set the ground for a hybrid event in the future while keeping the same structure. We'll detail that in some upcoming slides. And we've been working very hard on along with James, Joanne, and the SP staff, on creating the social media profiles and branding and awareness within the community outside and inside of SP. So for you guys watching this, whether live or afterwards, don't forget to subscribe and follow us and add us onto either the LinkedIn profile, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I'm probably forgetting some of the social media. We have all of these profiles. We did our YMEC town hall, which I believe it's also, the recording is also available in the YouTube YMEC channel. We did 2 sessions for different major time zones. We've also been working very hard integrating ourselves with the other committees, as mentioned before. And there's this great event that will be happening in November, if I'm not wrong, which is the YP Congress, which is the first of its kind. It's a joint event with BML, the Business Management Leadership Committee. And it's going to be, I would say, 5 plus 2 days, almost 9 days of ideathon and based on sustainability, and a 5-day boot camp for not only YPs, but any SP member that wishes to be part of, in which we'll be covering and exchanging ideas and trade and know-how and lessons learned and tips and tricks on how to increase and maintain membership, engage young members, liaise with companies, liaise with your board, SP, section boards, and so on. So it's going to be a great workshop. We'll detail that later. And of course, we're working quite hard. And I know that NIHA is very strong on energy transition, which I'm a huge fan of. And as Eva was mentioning before, on everything related to energy worldwide, YMEC wants to be part of this change and help SP as a whole go through it for its younger members. And of course, the Achilles heel, of course, is always the conversion rate of memberships between students and professional members. So this is pretty much what we work on. We had, of course, the traditional yearly virtual career pathways, huge event that will happen again next year. So you guys should keep an eye on that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much this one we've covered. So just as a reminder, we have this YMEC symposiums for YP chairs. This is a slide powered by NIHA. This is what she's planning for 2022. So it's great events. I'm super excited. I feel bad I'm almost no longer YP, but these are not to be missed events. I wish I had this, especially now with a post-COVID world in which it will be possible to meet and gather and catch up in person and network in person, which there's nothing like it. You know, keep an eye on this. And of course, the updates are happening now with ATCE, which NIHA, James, and you and I have been working very hard on bringing all these events for you guys doing ATCE. And I know that NIHA has already branded some very interesting activities with Gaia and some courses and activities, which I'll let her detail later, of course. As a reminder on why is it YMEC so relevant and important for our community? SP and some countries, believe that it's usually a professional society, but more and more it's become a mixed one, with almost half of its membership demographics being students, of course, including masters and PhDs. And we notice here as well that compared to 2010, we see a shift, let's say, this younger demographic become a little bit older, but still having this major age gap here. So YMEC is kind of sitting here in the middle, trying to pull this younger crowd here without losing the grip and touch with this older demographics, which are, of course, some of them going to retirement, but securing this transfer of knowledge throughout this wide age demographic, which is quite hard to deal with, because in YMEC we deal from 18, 19-year-old students all the way to some 35, 36-year-old managers. So it's quite a wide range of age. And regarding membership, of course, not to go too much into details, but as you might be aware, in SP, we have that Achilles heel, which is the conversion rate between students and professionals. So it's quite interesting that some regions worldwide present a lot of members when they're students and not when they are professionals. And then other regions, it's quite the opposite. So we see here, for instance, Gulf Coast, North America, we see a large chunk of professionals, but not students. Whereas in Southeast Asia Pacific, which I know that Eva is quite acknowledged about, we have quite the opposite. We have a very small percentage of professional members and quite a large one of students. So this is also to keep in mind. If you can, of course, help propagate the word of SP during your regions and try to engage your demographics, it's always something we count on, because we want to bring you the best of SP and try to bring the most added value to membership, to our members. So it's Petrobol. It's an event organized by YMEC. It was a major challenge having both in a COVID environment and scenario was a major success, and a lot of man hours spent by so many people within YMEC, and also not necessarily YMEC, but helping YMEC, including judges, people generating questions, reviewing questions, all the media and communications part in parallel, support from the board liaison. So it was a huge macro event that you can, of course, watch the very heated and interesting semifinals and finals, and the whole event itself. It's recorded and available on the YouTube channel. So for 2021, this is what we wanted to do. I don't know if we were able to conclude all of them, but we definitely tried to meet our regional directors, try to engage them, try to certify the part of the SPE as in our regional and local scope and level. We really wanted to make Petrobol as standard as possible, being that, as you might be aware of, the international one is up to YMEC to organize, but the regional and local ones are for the different entities to be organized, structured, and defined. So we wanted to make it kind of standard across all spheres. And we try to have a hybrid event, which, although it was 100% virtual this time, we believe we created at least the ground, the base for a format that allows the subsequent integration of the in-person teams from the next ATCE, while other teams may be competing from home due to financial or logistical reasons, or even school calendar reasons. And of course, a goal of ours, I would say it's mine, but I know that other YMEC fellow volunteers share this dream, is that we'll eventually make Petrobol into Energy Bowl, which we already did this event. We try to increase the number of questions from energy transition, world energy matrix, economics, geopolitics, and some of the traditional disciplines were used to be underrepresented, like ATCE and production facilities and projects. So we've tried to make it as diverse as possible, as relevant as possible within the new world energy matrix and energy transition scenarios. So that's why we wish to, perhaps in the future, it might be called Energy Bowl. That might be under Niha's tenure and leadership, or perhaps later, but it would be quite interesting. We can't forget to talk about the Ambassador Lecture Program, the ALP. ALP is basically a program in which we, young professionals, go to universities to talk to students on how SP brought value and advantages for them to, whether it's securing their first job or joining the industry or just networking with fellow students, and then pivoting this into what they're actually doing nowadays in their career and their either academia or industry positions. So this is quite important, and we invite you all to visit the SP International webpage, where you can find much more resources, support, examples, and material on ALP. I know that Niha and YMEC have strong plans for this in the future. Yes, also, by the way, every year we track the section worldwide that had the most number of ALPs. So there's something we want to do, and we've been tracking, and perhaps in the future, individual awards for those that do the most individual presentations. So there's the YMEC and BML first YP Congress. So the idea is to hear from industry leaders and influencers, connect with the young universal force, promote inclusiveness, and be the forefront of the new energy and digital age. So how we plan to do this is a joint two-committee effort. So BML is focusing more on the side of the IDIA-thon, which will happen on the weekend before and the weekend after the bootcamp. It's going to be for around 100 or perhaps a little bit more than that members joining, in which through monitors and leaders and managers, they will be able to orient this sustainability IDIA-thon and produce some quite interesting results. So it's going to be broken into 2 weekends. And for those that, whether they're joining or not the IDIA-thon or want to just be part of the bootcamp, this bootcamp is going to happen throughout Friday, 5 days in the middle of the week, in which we'll have pre-recorded courses that one can take at any time. Let's say on how to, here in the bottom, one can better improve their live streaming networking presentations and techniques, mastering some of the SP tools such as the Informs, Membership Builder, how to better sell the value of SP membership, something also on knowledge transfer and on generation transition. So these will be pre-recorded courses. Then we have some highlights, some keynote speakers in this session that we've called White Elephant in the Room sessions, in which, for instance, we'll tackle the Society of Professionals in Energy. Is SP becoming that? We hope so. Then the role and the future of petroleum engineers in the new energy scenario. And we'll have also roundtable with CEOs. But of course, the main event of this upcoming first YP Congress, which hopefully will be annually, again, from November 6th to November 13th, is this 5 sessions in which we'll have 2 regions per day, trading and exchanging ideas, know-how and tips and tricks of the trade of engaging with young members. And this entire bootcamp will be giving a certificate for those that attend and undergo the program. And again, it's not only meant for YPs, it's meant for any SP member, including section officers, regional directors, whoever wants to join and either contribute with ideas and suggestions, or just be a witness of that exchange and learn and get some quite interesting ideas. After that, the idea is to produce a memo type of deliverable that we can submit to the board and share with the attendants. So there's the Emerging Leaders Alliance. I think this is one of the best kept secrets within SP. And I don't mean that in the sense that we don't promote it enough. I mean, in the sense that I think sometimes YPs overlook it. I myself thought it's one of the best experiences I've ever had with SP. You can apply every year through the website, and it's a joint event with many other societies and associations of different kinds of engineers. It happens every year. I myself attended what it was in DC. It was an amazing program. You only go a week of soft skill trainings, oratory skills, personality tests, and leadership lectures. It's full days, and at night or afternoon you have a lot of networking sessions. It's truly a great event, and it was previously virtually. Now it's going to be in person, and it happens every year. And SP usually takes, I think, James and you can correct me, but when I took it, it was around 4 to 5 people worldwide, 1 per region, kind of. So we invite you to join and apply for this program. Then going to NIHAS, and as Eva was mentioning, and previously being discussed, the part of sustainability and transition and transformation. These are core values and aspects that we want to really capture in YMEC. So ATCE, it's pretty much what we're undergoing now, thanks to the efforts of Nika, James, Wen, and all the volunteers and staff. There's going to be, of course, the Recurrent Virtual Career Pathways, which is a great event to do some nice networking, even when we go back, hopefully, to the post-COVID routine. The fact that it's virtual, it allows people to really join and talk to professionals worldwide from different countries and industries, which otherwise would be impossible. So this is something that happened even ahead of COVID, and quite a pioneer project. So it's really interesting for you guys. There's also this very important resource, which sometimes we overlook on the SP International webpage. You can go into the volunteer webpage where you can apply for volunteer roles, whether it's a Petrobol question submitter, whether you want to join some sort of an event, paper contest, whatever. There's so many opportunities and such a constant need for volunteers. So don't forget to check out that webpage. And of course, closing. So this is YMEC. Please don't forget to join, follow us, subscribe, or I always forget this. I'm an older YP, so I might be bad on my social network new terms, but don't forget to track us and follow us and subscribe to our social media profiles and to get the latest updates, videos, broadcasts, and information. And with that, I'm close, and thank you so much, guys, for your time. And hopefully we didn't repeat ourselves too much, and hopefully we encourage you guys to join YMEC and at least engage with one of these many opportunities for volunteers, which for sure brings some great added value to everyone's career.
Thank you so much, Rodrigo. That is an incredible summary of, it just shows how much we do within YMEC and SPE in general. This is just touching the surface of what SPE does internationally and what gets done on a local level within the sections and chapters. So There really are a lot of resources for people to take advantage of. Thank you for summarizing that, Rodrigo. It's been, from a personal note, it's been a pleasure working with you over the past year as a YMEC chair. I can't wait to keep working with you as we go forward, and to Nahal as well. It's going to be great working with you going forward as the incoming chair as well. I'm aware we've just got about 15 minutes left of our scheduled time. We do want to kind of keep the reception-y part of the session as well. So it would be great to go into our breakout sessions soon, just to allow you to talk to each other about some of the things that we've been looking at today. So how you would like to prepare for the energy transition, how that's going to impact your career personally, topics such as what SPE activities that you're interested in, or things that you want to participate in yourself. It would be great to hear from you, and then we will reconvene in about 10 minutes and we will see what you had to say. But I hope you've enjoyed the session so far. Again, please try and use your cameras and things like that. It would be great to see you. If not, don't worry, we just want to hear from you. So fantastic. Ewan, if you are able to start our breakout sessions, it would be great to meet some of you one-to-one. Fantastic. So we've got most of you back, a couple more people returning back to us. Excellent. I think that's all of us now. Okay, great. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that chance to kind of catch up with everybody. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more opportunities to do that, particularly with the YP Congress Rodrigo was talking about. Lots of other activities coming on. Were there any other comments or feedback people wanted to share from their breakout session? How did you find yours, Rodrigo?
Oh, it's great. We're catching up, having Ghana, Moscow, and London with UN Summit and Matt's. It's always this amazing thing of SP, right? Making friends or acquaintances and networking with people all around the globe. All passionate about being volunteers in the oil and gas energy now industry. So it's a great session. Thanks so much, James.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I had Mohammed with me in my session. He's going to ELA next week.
Nice. Congrats, Mohammed.
That's going to be exciting.
Yes.
Super stuff, Mohammed. Send us some pictures over there. That's a great experience.
Yes. I think from my work, I think Cassandra was me as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so we'll take photo and send you WhatsApp.
Please do. And will Blaine or James or UN from SP staff be attending?
We have Taylor who will be attending this year. We try and send a different staff member each year because it's great for staff to attend as well. Like the training is just brilliant generally. So even for us non-engineers, it's a really good training. We'll get you in to go soon, as soon as travel becomes possible again.
Epic. And who knows that perhaps in the future we can have our own mini LAA just for SP, rotating. We have it in Africa 1 year, then Middle East Asia another year, then Europe, and we rotate every year. We're able to meet you guys in person, fully sponsored by companies.
Yeah, definitely. There's no shortage of opportunities for training. I mean, I know from other sessions and other events, people have discussed that soft skill training and just general training is being cut by a lot of companies. So SP is really trying to do what it can to provide as much as possible. So hopefully you can all join us for that. Well, we are approaching the end of time. I know there's just a few of you left, but I really appreciate you guys sticking on, and I hope you've enjoyed this session and made the most of it. If you're watching on demand, you can still contact us. Just email us at yp@sp.org. We'd be more than happy to chat with you and let you know about any programs that are taking place. Obviously, there's the SP website, www.sp.org. If you go to the membership area of that, you'll find our student section and our YP section. All of the programs Rodrigo was talking about, you can find out more on those pages there. Other than that, as Rodrigo's, again, he's already said, we've got our LinkedIn pages, we've got Facebook pages. So please do reach out to us any way you can. SP is all about community and networks. So thank you so much. And thank you to you guys on the call. Thank you for Ava, who joined us earlier. That was a really great presentation. And again, thank you to you, Rodrigo, for your presentation and all of the work that you've been doing the past few years for WIMEC.
It's teamwork. Congrats. Thanks to you guys, Mohammed, all the WIMEC members, and everyone. It's been amazing. True honor.
Yeah, thank you for this event and the organization and everything.
Oh, thank you, Mats. It's a pleasure to have you here. Excellent. Well, we are bang on time, so I will call it an end there. Thank you so much for attending our ATCE Young Member activities. This is the last one led by WIMEC, but there is also the Students' Award ceremony taking place tomorrow. There's also a networking session just before that as well. So if you can join that, it would be well worth your time. We will be announcing the student paper contest winners during that session. So do make sure to join in. Thank you once again, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the rest of ATCE.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, James. Thank you, Rodrigo. Thanks, guys.